Good afternoon and welcome to the second technical session of the 2018 to 2019 Expanded National Nutrition Survey Online Dissemination Forum on the Food Consumption Survey and Biochemical Survey with the theme, What Does the 2019 Data Say? Are we on track? Unmasking the dietary intake, vitamin A and iodine status, and iodine content of salt among Filipino households before the pandemic. I am Pia Amita, and with me is Stephanie Parani, and together we are your hosts and moderators for this afternoon session.
Yes, Miss Pia, welcome everyone. So the morning session was very informative as our resource speakers shared the results of the dietary survey both at the household and international level. So according to their presentation, about 99% of Filipinos were consumers of cereals and cereal products, and majority of which were rice and rice products. So we Filipinos are really rice lovers, and rice will always be part of our every meal. However, several concerns were also identified with regards to the Filipinos' energy and nutrient intake. So I guess this afternoon session will be as enlightening and interesting as the morning session, for our speakers will reveal the results of the biochemical survey. By the way, the replay of the morning session can be accessed at the DOST-FNRI YouTube channel after the completion of the session 2.
I'm sure it will be Steph, but before we start, allow me to share some reminders to our participants. Okay. The webinar will be recorded for documentation purposes. So a while ago, you signed the attendance for the morning session. Please sign our attendance sheet for the afternoon session as well. This will be posted in the chat box. We highly encourage an interactive session. As such, if you have questions and comments, please use the Q&A icon below for those joining from the Zoom platform. For those who are watching via the DOST-FNRI YouTube channel, you may also key in your questions using the comments section. Our team will try our best to accommodate each and every inquiry. Our open forum will commence right after the call to action from our distinguished discussants. Certificates will only be given to Zoom webinar attendees who have successfully answered the pre-test, post-test, and evaluation. In order to get your certificates, again, please sign the attendance sheet, and it will be okay. The link will be posted in the Zoom webinar chat box, and also please make sure to accomplish the post-test and evaluation form in the ENNS website using your account. The post-test and the evaluation form will only be open until 12 noon tomorrow, May 28, 2021. Please give us at least 7 working days to process the certificates. The certificate of attendance will be sent to your email. Please make sure to provide a valid and correct email address. The webinar replay can be accessed at the DOST-FNRI YouTube channel.
Okay, for this session, our resource persons will discuss the results of 3 topics included in the biochemical survey. First is the vitamin A and iodine status of Filipinos. Second is the iodine content of household salt. And third is the awareness and usage of iodized salt. So micronutrients are vitamins and minerals needed by the body in very small amounts. However, their impact on our body is crucial, and deficiency in any of those can cause severe and even life-threatening conditions. Almost 1/3 of the global population is affected by deficiencies in vitamin A and iodine. They often coexist and prevalent in children and pregnant women.
But before we proceed, may we request Ms. Nestrian Boyko to introduce our participants for this afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the 2019 ENNS Online Dissemination Forum. I hope we all had a hearty and healthy lunch so we can stay alert for our afternoon session. There are currently 412 participants in our session. Others may still be taking their lunch, so we expect the number of attendees to still increase later. Among our attendees, we recognize again, still supporting us, our former directors, Dr. Mario Capanzana and Dr. Corazon Barba, who are still with us this afternoon. Also with us is the DOST Undersecretary for Research and Development, Dr. Rowena Cristina Guevara. Good afternoon, ma'am. Our participants remain diverse this afternoon. We have a lot of nutritionists, dietitians engaged in different fields of nutrition. We have physicians, nurses, food technologists, agriculturists, medical technologists, chemists, chemical engineers, statisticians, researchers, professors, instructors, and students. Welcome to our afternoon sessions.
Thank you, Ms. Nesrian, for the extensive acknowledgement of our participants. Indeed, we are graced by many dignitaries and distinguished guests this afternoon, and we are very grateful for your continued support to FNRI's dissemination activities and for taking some time off out of your busy schedules just to be part of our webinar. Thank you so much.
To introduce our guest speaker for this afternoon, may we call on again our FNRI Director and Scientist 2, Dr. Imelda Angeles Agdepa.
Thank you so much, Pia and Steph and also Nessa. So to all our participants who are still with us until this afternoon, maraming salamat sa inyong pakinig sa amin. So it is actually with the great honor and an opportunity to introduce our next guest who will welcome us in this afternoon session. Dr. Rowena Cristina L. Guevara is the Undersecretary for Research and Development of the Department of Science and Technology. Dr. Guevara is seconded from the University of the Philippines, Diliman, where she occupies the position of Professor 12 at the Electrical and Electronics Engineering Institute, specializing in speech and audio signal processing, time frequency analysis and synthesis, and artificial intelligence. As Undersecretary for R&D, Dr. Guevara supervises 4 DOST councils, 7 DOST Research and Development Institutes, and the Technology Application and Promotion Institute. Further, Dr. Guevara oversees the management of the DOST R&D funds, bilateral and multilateral linkages, and the DOST Spatial Projects Division, which provides technical and administrative support to DOST in the management of DOST Grants and Aid program. Dr. Guevara also leads the DOST Science for Change program. Prior to her appointment as Undersecretary, Dr. Guevara served as Executive Director of the DOST-Food from July 2012 to 2015. She was the youngest and first female dean of the UP College of Engineering and was Executive Director of the UP National Engineering Center from 2004 to 2010. She received for her BSEE and MSEE degrees from the University of the Philippines in Diliman, and her PhD in electronics engineering degree from the University of Michigan. She has been the recipient of several awards in engineering and education, including the 2010 Metrobank Outstanding Teachers of the Philippines, 2018 Gawad CESP Presidential Award, and the 2019 Award for Continuing Excellence in Service from the Metrobank Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, guests, I am proud to present to you our very own Undersecretary for Research and Development, Dr. Rowena L. Guevara. Hello, ma'am. Good afternoon po.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. DOST-Food and Nutrition Research Institute Director, Dr. Mel Agdepa. our esteemed speakers from the Food and Nutrition Research Institute, colleagues from DOST, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant afternoon to all. It has been more than a year since the first case of COVID-19 in the country was confirmed, and still, the pandemic is very much present today, with the Philippines surpassing the 1 million mark of COVID-19 cases at the end of April 2021. The pandemic is a global public health emergency, and it has profound implications on food security and nutrition, undermining our efforts to achieve the Sustainable Development Goal of zero hunger by 2030. The slowdown in economic activities brought about by lockdowns disrupted the food supply chain, limiting availability and access and posing threat to food security, which could eventually lead to malnutrition after a prolonged period of time. However, it is common knowledge that even before the pandemic, hunger and malnutrition are serious concerns already, not just in the Philippines, but the entire world. In 2019, it was estimated that more than 690 million people, or 8.9% of the global population, were undernourished. This is from FAO, IFAD, UNICEF, WFP, and WHO. Recent estimates suggest that between 83 and 132 million more people, including 30 to 80 million people in low-income countries that rely on food imports, will experience food insecurity as a direct result of the pandemic. This is from the HLPE 2020. Malnutrition in all its forms increases vulnerability to COVID-19, so there is a need to act urgently to prevent the worsening of the situation. To provide a snapshot of the impacts of the pandemic in the food security situation in the Philippines, the DOST-FNRI conducted a Rapid Nutrition Assessment Survey, or RNAS, in November to December 2020. Results showed that 62.1% of the surveyed household in 9 provinces experienced moderate or severe food insecurity, and these were more prevalent in low and medium risk areas to COVID-19 compared to high risk areas. It may sound strange, but this is mainly due to greater availability and accessibility of food in the form of food aids or ayuda in high risk areas where lockdowns were usually implemented. Today's online dissemination theme, unmasking the dietary intake, iodine and vitamin A status, and iodine content of salts among Filipino households before the pandemic, is a revelation of sort of the quality and quantity of food that was usually consumed in the 2018 to 2019 ENNS, as well as our situation in terms of deficiencies in vitamin A and iodine. The data provides an up-to-date information on the current standing of our country in terms of a number of indicators that are aligned with both the national and global nutrition targets, such as the 2030 Sustainable Development Goal, or SDGs, the Philippine Development Plan 2017 to 2022, or PDP, and the Philippine Plan of Action for Nutrition 2017 to 2022, or the PPAN. Understanding the food and nutrition situation while identifying the most vulnerable population groups will help in better planning, management, and program evaluation. In the context of our present situation, I believe that efforts to address the ever-pressing issue of COVID-19 pandemic will contribute to the hard-fought gains in nutrition throughout the years. Although overwhelmed with unimaginable impacts of COVID-19, the country continues to remain true to its global commitments, especially in achieving zero hunger. In fact, last year, the President signed Executive Order 101, which created the Interagency Task Force on Zero Hunger with the aim to end hunger by 2030. This is led by no other than the Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Carlo Nograles, and Agriculture Secretary, Honorable William Darr, with the World Food Program as its partner. And of course, DOST is part of the task force. Among its key result areas are reviewing existing relevant policies, ensuring food is available and affordable, securing nutrition adequacy, securing food accessibility and safety, ensuring resiliency and food stability during emergencies, and ensuring information, education, awareness, and people participation. Guided with its mission of directing, leading, and coordinating the country's scientific and technological efforts geared towards maximum economic and social benefits to the people, the DOST continues to provide science-based interventions to help solve the malnutrition problems of the country. As Secretary de la Peña always say, making science work for the people means that the ultimate end users of the developed technologies are Filipinos. We fully support the rebirth of FNRI technologies on rice mongo blend as complementary food, and now the enhanced Nutriban with the recently launched carrot variant in addition to the existing e-Nutriban squash variant. And we will not stop with doing R&D to provide more sustainable solutions for our generation and the next. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat at magandang agham po sa ating lahat.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Yusek Guevara, for that very timely message. Indeed, our guiding principle in everything we do in FNRI is science for the people, making sure that our services, products, and research will contribute towards the improvement of the nutrition of every Filipinos.
Yes. So my takeaway from Yusek Guevara's speech is that we at FNRI and DOST will not get tired in providing science-based interventions to help solve the malnutrition problem of our country. Again, thank you very much, Yusek Guevara.
At this point, allow me to present our Certificate of Appreciation to Dr. Rowena Cristina L. Guevara, Undersecretary for Research and Development, Department of Science and Technology, for sharing her invaluable time and insights as a guest speaker during the online dissemination forum on food consumption, vitamin A and iodine status, and iodine content of household salts, given this 27th day of May 2021 at the Food and Nutrition Research Institute, signed by our director, Dr. Imelda Angela Sagdepa.
Maraming salamat.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you po. And now,
Thank you, ma'am.
okay, let us now move on to the much awaited part of our program, the dissemination of the ENNS biochemical survey. So our presenter for the methodology of vitamin A, urinary iodine, and salt analysis is the supervising science research specialist of the Service Laboratory Group. She is with DOST FNRI since 2003. She is also a registered chemist and currently taking up her doctorate in philosophy at the University of Santo Tomas. So with that, I present to you Ms. Rosemary J. Dumag.
Good afternoon to all. So may I request that I can share my screen? Okay, so good afternoon again to all. I will be presenting the different methods being used by the laboratory for the determination of serum vitamin A, urinary iodine concentration, and the iodine levels of household salt. But first, I would like to give a background on how the samples are being collected from the field and being transported to the laboratory. So first, a well-ventilated and well-lit space that is away from direct sunlight with privacy is selected in the area to be used during the blood collection. Details of the participants are confirmed, such as their names, date of birth and age, biological sex, and physiological status prior to the collection of the samples. Tests are then identified based on this physiological status and age, and also the basis on the technique to be used for blood collection. Time of extraction is also noted. Prick method is used for 6 to 71 months, while venipuncture is used for 6 years old and above. Participants were then instructed to collect a midstream random urine sample in a clean plastic cups. Samples are then transferred into a properly labeled polystyrene tubes. The supernatant serum is then separated from the red cell sediments by centrifugation. Aliquot of serum are then stored in a microcentrifuge tubes per type of analysis to be done. For the interim storage, samples are stored inside an ice chest filled with wet ice. Samples to be shipped in the FNRI service lab are then packed in accordance to IATA packaging, regardless of the type of consignment, either through air or landway bills. Frozen gel ice pack are used to maintain a low temperature environment inside the ice chest during the transport. And then upon arrival at the service lab, samples are then placed inside the freezer at -20 degrees Celsius for the urine sample and -60 degrees Celsius for serum and plasma sample until being checked and accepted by the analyst. For the methodology on the determination of serum vitamin A, this is measured using an isocratic elution by a high-performance liquid chromatographic method. An internal standard that contains a retinol acetate in methanol solution is added to a 100 microliter serum sample. The alcohol is added to denature and precipitate the proteins to release the retinol from retinol binding proteins. The solution is then extracted with hexane by centrifugation at a controlled temperature. The procedure is repeated to ensure that all retinol were extracted from the sample. The sample is then extracted and evaporated to dryness under a stream of nitrogen, and it is redissolved in an alcohol dichloromethane mixture prior to injection in the HPLC unit for quantitation. For the iodine determination, the iodine in urine are measured by a catalytic action on the reduction of ferric ion coupled with the oxidation of arsenic ion. A 250 microliter urine sample is digested in a 1 molar ammonium sulfate at a controlled temperature, which is 100 degrees Celsius, for 60 minutes to liberate the protein-bound iodine and remove the interfering substances such as nitrite, thiocyanate, and other ferrous iron. The digested solution is then reacted with arsenous acid and ferric ammonium sulfate prior to quantitation using a spectrophotometer at 420 nanometer. Results are then expressed in a unit of microgram per deciliter for vitamin A and microgram per liter for the urinary iodine concentration. Also, different quality assurance is being employed by the laboratory for the analysis of the said parameters, such as controlled light inside the laboratory, since both analyses involve oxidation procedure. Solvents and samples are also filtered prior to injections, and all equipment undergoes periodic preventive maintenance, and system checks are performed prior to analysis. In every batch analysis, an in-house reference materials are being used that are traceable to certified reference materials from the National Institute of Standards and Technology in the US. Also, the laboratory participates in different proficiency testing program of the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, semi-annually for vitamin A and quarterly for UIC to continuously evaluate the performance of the lab. Moving on for the methodology on the determination of the iodine level of household salt using the WYD to measure the iodine concentration of salt that is being fortified by potassium iodide. So about 500 grams of salts are stored in a polyethylene container, which is requested from each household. Samples are then placed in a black bag and boxes to avoid UV exposure, and it is being transported to FNRI together with a transmittal form at least within 7 days after the collection. 1 gram of the salt sample is then dissolved in around 20 to 30 ml of water, and then 2 ml of starch indicator and a dilute sulfuric acid is added to the sample to oxidize the iodate to iodine concentration. Solution is then diluted to 50 ml prior to reading in the WYD checker. Salt samples are also subjected to moisture determination by gravimetric method using an air oven for wet and semi-wet samples, while a moisture analyzer is used for the determination of moisture content for dry samples. Iodine results are reported in unit ppm, and these are corrected and reported as a dry basis using the moisture content. Quality assurance is also employed by the laboratory, in which the WYD is installed in a dry place with good ventilation. Also, a gray glass and standard solutions are being used for the calibration of the WYD checker, and an in-house reference material at 3 different levels are used in every batch of analysis. So that would be all for the different methodologies that is being used by the laboratory for the determination of the concentration of salt, iodine in urine, and vitamin A in serum. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. RD, for enlightening us on the methodology, beginning from the preparation, collection, processing, and analysis of vitamin A, urinary iodine, and salt. Again, if you already have questions in mind, you can send it now using the Q&A icon below, and we will acknowledge it later during the open forum. Now, presenting the results of the vitamin A status of Filipinos is Ms. Glenda P. Azania, Science Research Specialist 2 of the Nutritional Assessment Section of NAMPI. Ms. Azania is a registered nutritionist dietitian. She took up her bachelor's degree in nutrition at the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, and her master's degree in applied nutrition in the same university. Currently, she is the component leader of the Biochemical Survey. Let us all welcome Ms. Glenda P. Azania. Ms. Glenda.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Today, I will be presenting the vitamin A status of selected population groups. So what do we know about vitamin A? So vitamin A, as we all know, is a micronutrient, and it is a fat-soluble vitamin, and it naturally present in variety of foods. There are 2 forms. These are the preformed vitamin A, such as meat, poultry, fish, and dairy products, and provitamin A, such as fruits, vegetables, and other plant-based products. So vitamin A is very important in our body, and it is essential for many physiological processes. Some of its functions include it supports vision under conditions of poor lighting. It maintains the integrity of all surface tissues. It maintains a healthy immune system, and it plays an important role in embryonic growth and development. And it has also an important role in reproduction. Now, when the diet is chronically insufficient in vitamin A, this results to vitamin A deficiency. Vitamin A deficiency is a condition that covers all physiological disturbances, including subclinical and clinical signs and symptoms, which is reflected using the serum retinol level. So the determination of serum retinol level was discussed earlier by Ma'am RD. So these are the consequences of vitamin A deficiency. VAD may cause preventable blindness in children. If children have moderate to severe deficiency, VAD causes impaired embryonic development. It increases the risk of morbidity and mortality from severe infections. Those with low vitamin A stores, leaving them vulnerable to infections and with reduced immunity to fight common childhood diseases. It also poses higher risk of respiratory infection and diarrhea among children with mild to moderate VAD. It also causes impaired iron mobilization from stores. So who are vulnerable to VAD? Young children are at a greater risk of vitamin A deficiency due to their higher physiological requirements. This risk increases the possibility of children to become ill or suffer death from childhood infections, including measles and those that cause diarrhea. Women of reproductive age, those 15 to 49 years old, become more susceptible to vitamin A deficiency once they get pregnant, and those breastfeeding mothers. VAD occurs in pregnant women, especially during the last trimester, when demand by both the unborn child and the mothers is highest. Now, most older adults, in this case the elderly, do not eat a healthy diet. So mild vitamin deficiencies are very common among seniors, particularly among frail elderly. So it is important that these vulnerable groups have extra protection against micronutrient deficiencies, particularly in this time of pandemic. So what are the strategies to address vitamin A deficiency? So we have vitamin A supplementation, food fortification, micronutrient powder supplementation, and dietary diversification. Vitamin A supplementation is a global health strategy to eliminate vitamin A deficiency and its consequences rather. So in the Philippines, we have the Garantisadong Pambata program, wherein it involves the administration of supplemental doses every 6 months to all infants and children aged 6 to 59 months. For food fortification, we have the Republic Act 8976 or the Philippine Food Fortification Act of 2000, wherein there is a mandatory fortification of staple foods such as rice, flour, refined sugar, and cooking oil. And we also have a voluntary fortification. We have the Sangkap Pinoy Seal program. This is a strategy to encourage manufacturers to fortify processed foods and food products with essential nutrients at levels approved by the Department of Health. Another is the provision of micronutrient powder supplementation among 6 to 23 months old. So MNP can be sprinkled and mixed with cooked regular home-based food on the basis of 1 sachet per child per day. And number 4 is the dietary diversification, and this involves promotion of increased dietary intake of vitamin A through home gardening and nutrition education programs. So before we go to the result, let us review the guidelines used in the interpretation of vitamin A data. Vitamin A level is divided into 4 groups: the high, acceptable, low, and deficient. When we say vitamin A is high, this means that the serum retinol level is 50 microgram per deciliter and above. Vitamin A level is acceptable if it is between 20 to 49 microgram per deciliter, and low and deficient vitamin A level if the serum retinol is less than 20 microgram per deciliter. For the cutoffs on public health significance, it is mild if the prevalence with low and deficient serum retinol level is 2 to less than 10%, moderate if 10 to less than 20%, and severe if the prevalence was 20% and above. So now, for the 2018-2019 Expanded National Nutrition Survey, for vitamin A, selected population groups were included in the survey, such as children 6 months to 5 years old, women of reproductive age. This age group belongs to 15 to 49 years old, including non-pregnant, non-lactating women, pregnant women, and lactating mothers. And we also have the elderly, 60 years old and above. So this is the coverage by population groups for each survey year for 2018 and 2019, and the total of individuals covered for each year. For 2018, the total individuals covered was 31,874, while for 2019, the total was 35,713 individuals with a pooled or combined data of 67,587 individuals for 2018 and 2019. This is the response rate for vitamin A data. About 43% or equivalent to 10,421 young children have vitamin A data, 60.1% for non-pregnant, non-lactating women, 66.4% for pregnant women, 75.2% for lactating mothers, and 65.5% for elderly. This component of biochemical survey involved blood collection to determine the vitamin A status. So the low response rate, particularly among children, was due to the refusal of mother or caregiver or the respondent to participate in blood collection. And sometimes, eligible respondents were not at home or away during the survey. So this is the overall picture of the prevalence of vitamin A deficiency in selected population groups in the Philippines. Children had moderate to severe vitamin A deficiency, while the other groups had low to mild level of vitamin A deficiency. So let us now take a look on the vitamin A status by age group or physiologic state, starting in children 6 months to 5 years old. The overall mean serum retinol was 27.6 microgram per deciliter, indicating an acceptable level of vitamin A concentration. However, VAD prevalence was 15.5%, and this signifies moderate level of public health concern. Disaggregating the children into two groups, infants 6 to 11 months and 1 to 5 years old, showed that the mean serum retinol of infants 6 to 11 months was 25.4 microgram per deciliter, while the mean SR of 1 to 5 years old children was 27.8 microgram per deciliter, both indicating an acceptable level of vitamin A concentration. However, VAD prevalence among infants was 21.8%, which is of moderate to severe level of public health problem. On the other hand, VAD among older children, 1 to 5 years old, was 15.1% and considered of moderate level. We also group the children into into 6 to 23 months. This is a period of infant and young child feeding, and the 2 to 5 years old, and determine their serum retinol levels and VAD prevalence. The 6 to 23 months old children had an acceptable vitamin A level, as well as the 2 to 5 years old children. However, again, the younger children's 6 to 23 months had VAD prevalence reflecting moderate to severe level, while the older children had moderate level of VAD. Okay, by single age group, again, the infants 6 to 11 months had the highest VAD prevalence at 21.8%, followed by 1-year-old at 19.9%. By place of residence, rural areas at 16.9% had slightly higher proportion of VAD than urban areas at 13.6%. But the difference in the proportion was not significant. So this is based on the 95% confidence interval indicated in the table. In this slide, there are 3 different shades of peach. This represents the level of public health significance or degree of severity of vitamin A deficiency based on the WHO classification. The lighter color of peach indicates mild level or VAD prevalence is between 2 to less than 10%. The middle color peach is moderate level or VAD prevalence is between 10 to less than 20%, and the darker shade of peach indicates severe level or VAD prevalence is 20% and above. So by wealth quintile, highest VAD prevalence was observed among the poorest at 22.4%, showing a severe level of vitamin A deficiency, while the prevalence among the richest quintile households was considered mild at 5.5%. VAD prevalence is decreasing with increasing wealth quintile. For the trend among children, from 1993 to 2003, vitamin A deficiency was of severe level among young children, and significant improvement in VAD prevalence was noted from 2003 to 2008, bringing down the level to moderate public health significance. However, the subsequent increase in the prevalence in 2013 at 20.4% brings back vitamin A deficiency to severe level. In 2018 and 2019, VAD went down to 15.5%, and the 4.9 percentage point reduction in the said survey years was significant. Moving on to women of reproductive age, 15 to 49 years old, among non-pregnant, non-lactating women, the mean serum retinol was 42.4 microgram per deciliter, reflecting an acceptable level of vitamin A concentration. The VAD prevalence of 1.2% indicate low level of public health concern. By place of residence, among VAD among non-pregnant, non-lactating women in rural areas at 1.4% was not significantly different with those in urban areas at 1.1%. By wealth quintile, highest VAD prevalence was noted among the poorest at 1.9% and lowest among the richest quintile households at 0.4%. Among pregnant women, the overall mean serum retinol of 36.3 microgram per deciliter indicates an acceptable level of vitamin A concentration. The VAD prevalence of 3% corresponds to mild public health concern. For the trend, Significant improvement in VAD prevalence was noted among pregnant women, wherein there was a consistent reduction in vitamin A deficiency from 1998 at 22.2% to 2018-2019 at 3%. The 6 percentage point reduction from 2013 to 2018 and 2019 in VAD prevalence was significant. Among lactating mothers, the overall mean serum retinol of 41.6 microgram per deciliter indicates an acceptable level of vitamin A concentration. VAD prevalence of 2.2% corresponds to mild level of public health significance. By place of residence, lactating mothers residing in rural areas had slightly higher proportion of VAD at 2.8% compared with those in urban areas at 1.3%, but the difference between the two was not significant. By wealth quintile, vitamin A deficiency among lactating mothers was more prevalent among the poorest at 3.9% and lowest among the middle quintile households at 0.5%. For the trend among lactating mothers, improvement in vitamin A deficiency prevalence was also observed, wherein there was a steady decline in vitamin A deficiency from 2003 at 20.1% to 2018-2019 at 2.2%. For the past 10 years, from 2008 to 2018 and 2019, VAD prevalence in this group was of mild level of public health significance. The 2.8 percentage point reduction in VAD prevalence from 2013 to 2018 and 2019 was significant. The last group is the elderly, so 60 years old and above. Okay. So among the elderly, or what we call the senior citizens, the mean serum retinol of 52 microgram per deciliter indicate a high level of vitamin A concentration, and the VAD prevalence of 1% reflect low level of public health concern in this group. By place of residence, VAD prevalence among elderly was not significantly different between rural and urban areas. By wealth quintile, VAD was more prevalent among the elderly in the poorest households at 2% and lowest among those in the richest quintile household at 0.3%. For the trend among the elderly, there was a steady decline in vitamin A deficiency from 2008 to 2018 and 2019. The 2 percentage point reduction in VAD prevalence from 2013 to 2018 and 2019 was significant. So based on the results, what population group mostly affected by vitamin A deficiency in the Philippines? So looking back on the mean serum retinol as well as the vitamin A deficiency prevalence in each group, it is very clear that the children 6 months to 5 years old are mostly affected by vitamin A deficiency, particularly the 6 to 11-month-old children with moderate to severe level of public health concern. Now, let us focus on children and try to understand their situation and characteristics in terms of dietary intake of vitamin A, nutritional status, prevalence of anemia, and participation or non-participation in vitamin A supplementation. So for the following slides, I will be presenting 2 groups of children for this, such as the 6 to 23 months old children and the 2 to 5 years old. This is because the 6 to 23 months is the period of infant and young child feeding, wherein children are still being breastfed along with the introduction of complementary foods. So they have different characteristics with the 2 to 5 years old children. On the proportion with adequate dietary intake of vitamin A, based on the estimated average requirement, or EAR, showed that among 6 to 23 months old children, the proportion was slightly higher among children who are not vitamin A deficient at 35.3% compared with vitamin A deficient 7.3%. But the difference in the proportion between the two was not significant. Meanwhile, among the 2 to 5 years old children, the proportion with adequate dietary intake of vitamin A was significantly higher among children who are not vitamin A deficient, wherein 4 out of 10 have adequate vitamin A intake, compared with 3 out of 10 in the vitamin A deficient children. So this is the slide from the presentation of Ma'am Josie this morning. And the top 5 food sources was based on the percent contribution of the food item to the total food intake. So again, these are the top 5 sources of vitamin A among 6 months to 5 years old, with milk in the top list, followed by chicken, egg, chicken liver, pork liver, and milk powder growing up. For nutritional status, undernutrition was more prevalent among vitamin A deficient children. For 6 to 23 months old, underweight was significantly higher among vitamin A deficient children compared with those who are not vitamin A deficient. For 2 to 5 years old children, underweight as well as stunting was significantly higher among vitamin A deficient children. On anemia, vitamin A deficient children have significantly higher anemia prevalence than children who are not vitamin A deficient. So this is true for both younger and older children. This implies that vitamin A deficient children were also suffering from anemia, particularly among 6 to 23 months old children, wherein half of the vitamin A deficient children were also anemic. So remember that one of the consequences of vitamin A deficiency is impaired iron mobilization from stores, and this may cause increased risk for anemia among vitamin A deficient children. On vitamin A supplementation program, among 6 to 23 months old children, about 69% in both groups, vitamin A deficient and not vitamin A deficient, had participated in vitamin A supplementation program in the past 12 months. On the number of times of vitamin A supplementation participation, majority of the children in both groups had vitamin A supplements only once, 86.5% for not vitamin A deficient children, and 90.3% for vitamin A deficient children. The proportion of children who receive vitamin A supplementation either once or twice was not significantly different between vitamin A deficient and not vitamin A deficient children. Among 2 to 5-year-old children, more than half in both groups, vitamin A deficient and not vitamin A deficient, had participated in VAS program in the past 12 months, 70.3% for not vitamin A deficient and 66.9% for vitamin A deficient children. On number of times of VAS participation, majority of the children in both groups had VAS only once, 81.4% for not vitamin A deficient children and 77% for vitamin A deficient children. The proportion of children who receive VAS either once or twice was not significantly different between vitamin A deficient and not vitamin A deficient children. So the survey is prior to the pandemic, and the reported participation to the twice vitamin A supplementation was low among 6 to 23 months old and 2 to 5 years old children. In summary, among children 6 months to 5 years old, vitamin A deficiency prevalence was of moderate public health significance. By single age group, 6 months to less than 1-year-old infants had VAD of moderate to severe level of public health significance at 21.8%. Vitamin A deficiency was of low public health significance among non-pregnant, non-lactating women of reproductive age at 1.2%. Among pregnant women and lactating mothers, VAD prevalence was of mild public health significance at 3 and 2.2% respectively. VAD was also of low public health significance among elderly at 1%, and across all age groups, vitamin A deficiency was more prevalent among households in the poorest wealth quintile. Focusing on 6 months to 5 years old children having the highest VAD prevalence compared with the other age or physiologic group, showed that vitamin A deficient children have the following characteristics. They have lower proportion meeting the estimated average requirement for vitamin A. They have higher prevalence of undernutrition, particularly underweight and stunting, and they have higher anemia prevalence. So with this, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Glenda. So according to her presentation, vitamin A deficiency was more prevalent among the poorest wealth quintile. So I guess this is connected with the results of the morning session, wherein we have problems in nutrient intakes. And then looking deeper, it is connected with food security in the household. To present the results of the iodine status of Filipinos, iodine content of household salt, and awareness and usage of iodized salt, we have once again Ms. Rosemary J. Dumag. Ma'am RD, the virtual space is yours.
Okay, so good afternoon again. So this time I am going to present the result on the iodine status of selected population groups and the iodine content of household salt in the Philippines, covering the ENNS for 2018 to 2019. As a background, iodine is a trace element that naturally occurs in seafood matrices, and this is also added in salt and some dietary supplements. Iodine is needed to produce a thyroid hormones, which controls metabolism of the body and other important functions. This thyroid hormone regulates a variety of important physiological processes, including cellular oxidation that aids in the proper bone and brain development of fetus during pregnancy. However, insufficient amounts of these elements will lead to iodine deficiency, thereby decreasing the production of thyroid hormone that may cause irreversible effects during pregnancy and early infancy. Other consequences of iodine deficiency that can affect all age group are goiter, hypothyroidism, mental retardation, while miscarriage and stillbirths for pregnant women. For fetus and children, may result in neurodevelopment deficits, growth retardation, cretinism, increased morbidity and mortality of infants, and impaired cognitive development. According to the International Council for the Control of Iodine Deficiency Disorder, The epidemiological criteria for assessment of iodine nutrition is based on the median urinary iodine concentration in school-age children, which is 100 to 199 microgram per liter, is considered adequate iodine intake and an optimal iodine status. It should also be noted that the indicator of iodine deficiency elimination is that 50% of the sample should be above 100 microgram per liter and not more than 20% of the sample should be below 50 microgram per liter. A different epidemiological criteria is used for pregnant women for the assessment of iodine nutrition. This is also based on the median urinary iodine concentration. Median UIC of 150 to 249 microgram liter is considered adequate iodine intake, and a median of more than 500 microgram per liter or higher is considered excessive, and this may lead to risk of adverse health consequences such as iodine-induced hyperthyroidism or autoimmune thyroid diseases. In 2018, a total of 33,000 individuals and 36,500 in 2019 were covered in the ENNS. Thus, the pooled data for 2018 to 2019 has a total of 69,561 individuals that were covered. For the response rate, a total of 110,597 individuals were eligible for the UIC determination. However, as mentioned earlier, only 69,000 were covered as a respondent. Thus, the response rate is 62.9%. And for the results of the iodine status of selected population group in the Philippines covering the 2018 to 2019, the iodine intake of school-age children 6 to 12 years old was adequate and with optimal status based on the median urinary iodine concentration of 174 microgram per liter. And the percentage of school-age children with urinary iodine level less than 50 microgram per liter was 12.4. Among the elderly, iodine intake based on the median UIC of 110 microgram per liter was adequate. However, 22.6% of the elderly had a urinary iodine level less than 50 microgram per liter. The iodine level for non-pregnant, non-lactating women based on the median UIC of 169 microgram per liter was adequate, and the proportion of non-pregnant, non-lactating women with urinary iodine level less than 50 microgram per liter was 12.1%. For the iodine level of lactating mothers, is this considered insufficient based on the median UIC of 99 microgram per liter. Moreover, 2 out of 10 or 22% of mothers had urinary iodine level less than 50 microgram per liter, indicating an iodine deficiency. For the iodine level of pregnant women, this is also insufficient based on the median UIC of 122 microgram per liter. Likewise, 2 out of 10 or 21.1% of the pregnant had urinary iodine level less than 50 microgram per liter, also indicating iodine deficiency. So to summarize, iodine intake of school-age children, elderly, non-pregnant, and non-lactating women were considered adequate based on their median UIC. Meanwhile, pregnant and lactating mothers were considered insufficient. 1 in every 10 school-age children and non-pregnant, non-lactating women indicated an optimal iodine status, while 2 out of 10 elderly, pregnant, and lactating mothers had less than 50 microgram per liter UIC, indicative of iodine deficiency. Disintegrating the result by place of residence, school-age children and elderly have adequately iodine intake both in rural and urban areas. However, there were more elderly in the rural areas who have median UIC of less than 50 microgram per liter, indicative of iodine deficiency. Among the non-pregnant, non-lactating women, optimal iodine status was observed both in rural and urban areas. For lactating mothers, iodine deficiency exists in rural areas, while among pregnant women, iodine deficiency exists both in rural and urban areas. Among school-age children, adequate iodine intake was observed across wealth quintiles. However, those belonging to the rich and richest household have more than adequate median UIC. Among elderly, iodine deficiency was observed among those belonging to poorest and poor household. Among the non-pregnant, non-lactating women, adequate iodine intake was observed across wealth quintiles. However, among lactating mothers, iodine deficiency exists among those belonging to the poorest and the poor household. Also, pregnant women had insufficient iodine intake across the wealth quintile from poorest to richest based on their median UIC. So to help alleviate the problem of iodine deficiency in the country, food fortification and salt iodization were some of the programs being implemented by the government. In December of 1995, the Philippine government passed the RA 8172, also known as an Act promoting salt iodization nationwide for relative purposes, which is popularly known as the ASIN Law. The ASIN Law promotes universal salt iodization. And thus, it requires all producers and manufacturers of food-grade salt to iodize the salt that they produce, manufacture, import, trade, or distribute for human and animal consumption. The law also requires the DOH to undertake the program, and for BFAD, now the FDA, to set and enforce standards for food-grade iodized salt. The ASIN law was enacted in recognition of the high prevalence of iodine deficiency, especially among children, pregnant, and lactating women in the country, and thereby now contributes to the elimination of micronutrient malnutrition problem in the country, particularly the iodine deficiency disorder. The implementing rules and regulations set for the salt iodization in the country, which is iodine levels at retail site should be 40 to 70 ppm for bulk packaging and 50 to 40 ppm for retail packaging, which is consistent with the WHO recommendation of 15 to 40 ppm iodine content of salt at the household level. Now, with the results on the awareness and usage of iodized salt in Filipino household, more than 2/3 or 67.3% of Filipino households are aware of iodized salt. Half of the meal planners perceive that iodized salts are clean or refined, and more than a quarter reported that iodized salt prevents goiter. 6 out of 10 of Filipino households are using iodized salt. So in this slide, the trends in proportion of households who were aware and claim as users of iodized salt in the Philippines from 1998 to 2018 to 2019. The blue line indicates the proportion of households who are aware of iodized salt, and a downward trend was noted from 78.5% in 2008 down to 67.3% in 2018 to 2019 survey results. On the other hand, the household who claimed to be using iodized salt was on an increasing trend from 24.8% in 1998 to 59.5% in 2018 to 2019 results. With the different type of salt being used by the Filipino household, were also asked from the different respondents. For the sources of salt, mostly were bought or from the market or talipapa for both the rock and fine salt. So this slide shows the type of salt being used by place of residence. A slightly higher usage of rock salt was observed in rural areas compared with the urban, but it is not significant. Same observation was noted with the usage of fine salt. While the usage of both types, a higher percentage was noted in urban areas than in rural areas. For the usage of rock salt, it was observed that as the wealth quintile increases, the proportion of Filipinos who are using rock salt decreases. On the other hand, the opposite trend is observed in the usage of fine salt, for as the wealth quintile increases, the usage increases. Same trend is observed when using both the type of salt. Moving on the results of iodine level of household salt using the WYD checker. A total of 56,000 households were eligible for the iodine level concentration of salt using the WYD checker. However, only 43,419 households provided salt sample, giving us a response rate of 77.5%. This was the increasing trend in iodine content of salt from household, which is 7.6 ppm. However, this was still below the recommended level of iodine in salt. So the question now is, are the Filipino household using adequately iodized salt? So this slide shows the trends in the proportion of household with adequately iodized salt, wherein there was an increasing trend from 25.2% in 2008 to 36% in 2018 to 2019, as seen in the blue line. This is based on the WYD checker. There was also a generally increasing trend based on the RTK from 1998 to 2013. However, RTK testing was not done last 2018 to 2019. So this slide shows that there was an increasing trend in the proportion of households who claim as users of iodized salt and those with adequately iodized salt, as represented in the green and red line. However, the proportion of households with adequately iodized salt is still a little over 1/3, and there is a decreasing trend in the proportion of households who are aware of iodized salt, as seen in the blue line. So as mentioned, 4 out of 6 Filipino households, or 36%, are using adequately iodized salt. This slide shows that there were slightly more households with inadequately iodized salt in rural areas, while there were slightly more households with adequately iodized salt in urban areas. Across wealth quintile, 40% have less than 5 ppm iodine in their salt or are non-iodized. Also, the proportion of households with adequately iodized salt increases as the wealth increases. In contrast, there were more households with inadequately iodized salt from poorer households. So looking at the proportion of households with adequately iodized salt and the iodine status of selected household members, about 3 in every 10 who have adequately iodized salt still have an iodine deficiency members. So looking at the progress in the elimination of iodine deficiency in the country, there are still pockets of iodine deficiency, particularly among pregnant and lactating mothers and elderly. While the proportion of households with adequately iodized salt has been increasing for the past 10 years. But we are also still far from the goal of having at least 90% of households with adequately iodized salt. In summary, median UIC and percent UIE level of less than 50 microgram per liter indicate an optimum iodine status among school-age children and non-pregnant and non-lactating women. Elderly had an adequate iodine intake of 110 microgram per liter, but those with UI level of less than 50 microgram per liter was 22.6%. Pregnant women and lactating mothers had an insufficient iodine intake. On the awareness and usage of iodized salt, 7 out of 10 Filipino households were aware of iodized salt, and 6 out of 10 Filipino households claim to be using an iodized salt. It is noted also that meal planners' perception on iodized salt are clean or refined, and this prevents goiter. For the different type of salt being used by Filipino household, majority of households were using rock salt by place of residence and by well quintile. Salt, either be rock or fine, were usually bought in market and talipapa. For the concentration of iodized salt, only 36% of the household were using adequately iodized salt. Proportion was higher in urban than in rural areas, and proportion was lowest among the poorest and highest among the richest well quintile. So that would be all for the result of the UIC and level of iodine in salt. Thank you po.
Thank you, Ma'am RD, for that informative presentation. I'm sure our participants have learned a lot. So for me, my takeaway from your presentation is that there is still a gap between the awareness and claimed usage of iodized salt. So hindi pala ibig sabihin na alam mo ay ginagawa mo. And another important data that I got here is that majority of households buy their salt in markets or talipapa, sari-sari stores and groceries. So if a program planner is listening here, and I'm sure we have participants who are program planners, ano? So these are the strategic data that we can use if you want to advocate the increased usage of iodized salt. So indeed, ENNS is a rich source of data that policymakers and program planners can use.
Yes, I agree sa lahat ng sinabi mo, Ma'am Pia. Lalo na dun sa hindi pala ibig sabihin na alam mo, ay ginagawa mo. Kasi nga, a little over 1/3 lang ang gumagamit ng adequately iodized salt base sa WYD test. And with regards with the iodine deficiency, meron pa rin nag-i-exist, especially sa mga pregnant and lactating mothers.
So again, thank you very much, Ms. RD and Ms. Glenda, for presenting the results of the 2018 to 2019 ENNS Biochemical Survey. So we noticed a lot of questions po regarding the pre-test. So pre-test actually ended during the morning session since nag-start na po yung mga presentations. But due to the clamor, sa mga nag-register po, you can take the pre-test again. So you can access it po sa ENNS homepage where you registered. So you just need to log in using your registered email address and password. For those who did not change their password, the default password is ENNS 2019. So thank you.
Okay, we will have a short break. Then we'll proceed with the call to action.
Larawan sa pamamagitan ng isang pinggan upang maipakita ang rekomendadong proportion ng bawat grupo ng pagkain. Ang go, grow at glow sa tuwing tayo kakain ng almusal, tanghalian at hapunan. Ang pinggang Pinoy ay isang per-meal food guide. Pinakita dito na ang rekomendadong laman ng kalahati ng ating pinggan ay gulay at prutas at ang natitirang kalahati ay para sa kanin at isda. Mas malaki ang bahagi ng kanin kaysa sa isda o karne. Ang Go Foods o Energy Foods ay ang pangunahing nagbibigay ng lakas at enerhiya sa ating katawan. Ang mga halimbawa nito ay kanin, tinapay, noodles at lamang ugat kagaya ng kamote, gabi, ubi at iba pa. Ang fats and oils ay nagbibigay din ng enerhiya na kailangan ng ating katawan, pero gamitin natin ang mga ito sa tamang dami lamang. Ang pangalawang grupo ng pagkain ay ang raw foods o bodybuilding foods, mga pagkaing mayaman sa protina na tumutulong sa pagpapanatili at pagsasaayos ng ating mga body tissues. Ang mga halimbawa nito ay isda, manok, itlog, karne, mga produktong mula sa hayop kagaya ng gatas at keso. Kabilang din sa raw foods ang mga butong gulay kagaya ng munggo, garbanzos, kadyos at iba pa. At ang pangatlong grupo ng pagkain ay ang low foods or ang body regulating foods. Ito ay ang mga pagkain mayaman sa vitamins, minerals at fiber na nagpapanatili ng kalusugan, nagpapakinis ng balat at nagpapalinaw ng mata at tumutulong sa regular na pagdumi. Ang low foods ay nahahati sa dalawang grupo, ang gulay at prutas. Gulay na kagaya ng malunggay, saluyot, kamote tops, ampalaya, kalabasa, carrots, sitaw at iba pa. Ang saging, dalanghita, papaya, bayabas, pinya at guyabano ilan lang sa mga halimbawa ng prutas. Ang dami ng ating dapat kainin ay iba-iba depende sa edad. Kung ito ay bata, teenagers, adults, older persons, pregnant o lactating women. Depende rin po ito sa kasarian kung ikaw ay lalaki o babae, sa size ng katawan at physical na aktibidad ng isang individual. Nire-recommenda rin ng Pinggang Pinoy ang madalas sa pag-inom ng tamang dami ng tubig. Bawasan na po natin ang pagkonsumo ng matatamis na inumin kagaya ng soft drinks at sugar-sweetened beverages. Ang Pinggang Pinoy ay may layuning makatulong sa bawat Pilipino na magkaroon ng tama at malusog na kagawian sa pagkain o healthy eating habits upang makamit at mapanatili natin ang ating gustong timbang at makaiwas tayo sa mga panamdaman na tinatawag nating non-communicable diseases or ENNS. Hinihikayat po ng aming ahensya ang DOST-FNRI na gamiting gabay ng bawat Pilipino ang Pinggang Pinoy Food Guide sa tuwing kakain ng almusal, tanghalian at hapunan. Makakatulong po ito na magkaroon tayo ng positibong pagbabago sa ating kalusugan at kalagayang pangnutrisyon. Ang Pinggang Pinoy Food Guide po ay para sa mga healthy Filipino individuals kung tayo po ay may problema sa ating kalusugan. Mangyari lang po na kumonsulta muna tayo sa isang registered nutritionist dietitian ng healthcare provider upang mabigyan tayo ng tamang payo tungkol sa tamang energy and nutrients na kailangan ng ating
The FNRI Service Laboratory is an ISO IEC 17025 accredited laboratory which is composed of 3 laboratories. It is the focal agency of the Department of Science and Technology for Nutrition Labeling and is recognized by the Philippine FDA for nutrition labeling and by BFAR for marine food products analysis. It is the only laboratory in the Philippines that is capable to analyze serum vitamin A and urinary iodine excretion. Initially mandated to conduct researches on biological parameters and support the laboratory needs of various in-house food research and development projects, FNRI-SL has continuously expanded and has offered its services also to the public. The chemical laboratory is equipped with instruments that allow proximate determination and physical chemical analysis of foods. Also, our laboratory is equipped with state-of-the-art modern instruments such as high-performance liquid chromatography, gas chromatography, atomic absorption spectrophotometer, graphite furnace-equipped AAS, automatic analyzer, WYD iodine checker, and the UV-Vis spectrophotometer is currently used for developing methods and water quality assessment. In the biochemical laboratory, other modern instrumentation are being used in order to support the National Nutrition Survey, medical research institutions, LGUs, non-government and international organizations. Having continuously participated and showed satisfactory results in the quality assurance programs of the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Biochem Lab offers now a wide range of tests. Meanwhile, the Microbiological Lab is a food laboratory offering a range of tests covering spoilage, indicator and pathogenic microorganisms in food and water samples. The Microlab offers the following: Also, the Microlab conducts isolation and identification of pathogenic microorganisms in food that are of significance to public health. Recently, the laboratory has also started performing molecular pathogen detection in food and bacterial cultures. Using the technology of real-time polymerase chain reaction, detection of Salmonella and Vibrio has become more rapid and accurate. As we are committed to deliver high-quality and timely services, the laboratory is maintained by well-trained, experienced, and PRC-registered chemists and chemical technicians, medical technologists, and registered microbiologists on analysis of different samples. Aside from our commitment to maintain quality data generation, FNRI-SL also holds trainings and continuous consultation to customers and stakeholders. In the future, the laboratory aims to expand its services by offering specialized tests to the public. In order to do this, we commit to continuously develop methods and train our laboratory staff for excellence and quality service.
Before we proceed with our call to action, we would like to acknowledge our participants watching via YouTube channel. You can also key in your questions in the chat box at the YouTube page, and we will try to answer your queries and questions. Okay. The Food and Nutrition Research Institute calls on our nutrition partners to make commitments in scaling up and sustaining nutrition interventions related to vitamins and minerals deficiency. We have invited distinguished discussants to answer the question, how can we address the food insufficiency and micronutrient deficiencies, particularly in this time of pandemic? Now, to introduce our first discussant for the call to action, may we call again our director, Dr. Imelda Angeles Agdepa. Dr.
Thank
Agdepa.
you. Thank you, Steph.
Thank you po.
So the first discussant is Governor Susan A. Yap, who is the Executive Vice President of the League of Provinces of the Philippines. The League of Provinces of the Philippines is an organization composed of governors of all the 81 provinces in the Philippines. Governor Yap came from a family of public servants who have dedicated their many years to the common objective of uplifting the lives of their constituents. Known for her distinguished career in public service and inspired by the passion to serve by her late father, Jose A. Yap, Governor Susan, as she is popularly known, has long sought and aimed to contribute to the development of Tarlac, its people, and the society at large. Motivated to establish a province that has a progressive, sustainable, and inclusive economy, Governor Yap seeks to empower the Tarlaceños through livelihood programs that provide alternative sources of income to the traditional agricultural base. Under Governor Susan's leadership, the provincial government of Tarlac became a consistent awardee of the Seal of Good Local Governance since 2013. Take note of that, no? Good Governance Service. It has won awards such as the Best Public Employment Service Office for the last 3 years, the National Gawad Kalasag Award for the exemplary performance of Tarlac Provincial Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council's Disaster Assistance and Rescue Team Emergency Medical Services, and the National Kabalikat Award for the province's contribution in advancing technical vocational education and training. Governor Yap's style of leadership is built on the foundation of people's participation, good governance, responsible leadership, and sustainable development. She is a staunch advocate of food security, health security, environmental protection, and children's rights, among others. As the representative of 2nd District of Tarlac for 2 consecutive terms from 2010 to 2016, Governor Yap was one of the most productive members of the House of Representatives, having authored and co-authored 63 laws, including important laws on the protection of children, such as Children in Emergencies Protection and Relief Act, Children's Safety in Motorcycles Act, Foster Care Act, and other laws crucial to curbing cybercrime and promoting data privacy, including the creation of the Department of Information and Communications Technology. In her never-ending work to make Tarlac a progressive province and one of the country's and world's best province, Governor Susan has always believed that the greatest and most important asset of Tarlac is its people. Thus, Governor Susan is and has always been committed towards ensuring the growth of all aspects of life of the people she sought to serve, be it social, psychological, or economical. Ladies and gentlemen, Governor Susan A. Yap. So let me now proceed with the second panelist. So our second discussant is Dr. Azucena M. Dayang Hirang. She is an experienced public health leader. For the past 29 years, she has been a facilitator and a trainer for various health programs, particularly on maternal child health and nutrition. She has served the people in Davao as City Nutrition Action Officer, or what we call CNOW, from the Division and Medical Officer 6 of Davao City Health Office from 1996 to 2005, as well as the Provincial Health Officer 2 and Provincial Nutrition Action Officer of Davao del Sur from 2008 to 2016. During her stint in the local government, she led the City Nutrition Committee in the planning, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation of health and nutrition programs. She initiated the Fresh Milk Supplemental Feeding Program, which led to the reduction of protein energy malnutrition among 0 to 6-year-old children. She was also successfully lobbied for the regularization of 32 dietitians deployed in the 16 districts of Davao City in 1996. In 2016, she was elected as the National President of the Nutrition Action Officers of the Philippines Association Incorporated. Shortly after she was appointed as Deputy Executive Director of the National Nutrition Council, an attached agency of the Department of Health, Philippines. In August 2019, Dr. Dayang Hirang was appointed as the Executive Director of the National Nutrition Council. Currently, she is designated as the Scaling Up Nutrition Philippines Government Focal Point, and most recently appointed as a member of the Executive Committee of the Global Scaling Up Nutrition Movement, representing Asia and Papua New Guinea. Recently, President Rodrigo R. Duterte signed the appointment of Dr. Dayang Hirang to Career Executive Service Officer, or CESO Rank 3, effective December 3, 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to present to you the action woman, Dr. Azucena Dayang Hirang. Our next, or the third discussant, is the Honorable Secretary Dr. William Dar of the Department of Agriculture. He is actually specializing on crop management, farming systems development, and technology sharing and upscaling. One of his greatest achievements is transforming International Crops Research Institute for the semi-arid tropics into one of the best agricultural research institutes in the world in terms of innovative research programs. He started Professor 6 in his alma mater, Benguet State University, then served as the Vice President for R&D in 1985. He was the founding director of the Department of Agriculture, Bureau of Agricultural Research in 1987 to 1994. Then served as Executive Director of the Department of Science and Technology, Philippine Council for Agriculture, Forestry and Natural Resources and Research Development, or what we call PCARD, in 1994 to 1998. This is his second term as Secretary for the Department of Agriculture. His first term was under the administration of the former President Joseph Estrada as DA Acting Secretary from July 1998 to 1999, in which the agricultural sector had a 9.6% growth in the highest still today. Through his well-known achievements and contributions in the field of science, technology, and agriculture, he was awarded by the President Rodrigo Duterte as the Outstanding Filipino for 2016. Secretary Dar has an equally important engagement today that he has to attend, but will be represented by equally able Undersecretary for Policy and Planning of the Department of Agriculture. We have here Undersecretary Rodolfo V. Vicera. Mr. Vicera has been very active in doing advocacy works in relation to policy and planning for the department. He also served as a legislative consultant for the Senate Committee on Food and Rural Development. He was Director General of the Congressional Planning and Budget Department at the House of Representatives for 6 years from 2004 to 2010. Prior to joining DA, Mr. Vicera has been doing independent consultancies and advocacy works in the civil society and non-government sectors, including short-term projects with ADB, UNDP, AusAid, FAO, and 2 years as legislative consultant at the Senate Committee on Food and Rural Development. Undersecretary Vicera graduated cum laude in the BS Business Economics from the University of the Philippines and has a master's degree in development economics from Williams College, Massachusetts, USA. Ladies and gentlemen, I am very proud to present to you our Undersecretary for the Department of Agriculture, Undersecretary Rodolfo V. Vicera. Over to you, Steph.
Thank you, Dr. Agnepa.
A World Bank study revealed that even before the COVID-19 pandemic, food security is one of the world issues which needs the immediate attention of each country's government. Food security are clearly affected by reduced incomes and acute hunger due to conflict, socioeconomic conditions, and calamities, both natural and man-made. We don't have to dig deep to see that COVID-19 aggravated the already declining food security. We are well aware that during the COVID-19, non-essential businesses and industries were ordered to temporarily suspend their operations. Consequently, many were left unemployed. On top of this, movement of goods and persons were restricted, allowing only those essential workers to go outside their houses. Consequently, even some of those businesses allowed to operate decided to close because there are no clients or customers. Naturally, reduced incomes and unemployment led to households cutting down on the quantity and quality of food consumption. Our country, a primarily agricultural country for that matter, was not spared on high food price inflation at the retail level. Logic dictates that high food prices have greater impact on low and middle income families. This was confirmed by a rapid phone survey conducted by the World Bank in 48 countries, which showed significant number of people running out of food or reducing their daily consumption. The Food and Agricultural Organization, or FAO, of the United Nations estimated that in 2019, the number of undernourished increased from 624 million in 2014 to 688 million. The facts are there. It is high time that our government puts premium on food security and proper nutrition. Several countries around the world have already allocated funding to reverse this reversible dilemma on food security which the world is currently facing. I understand that our country is cash-strapped at the moment, given that most of our resources are directed towards our collective fight against COVID-19. However, there are other international institutions such as the World Bank, which might be able to offer us an assistance. For example, the World Bank has already provided millions of dollars in financial grant to support initiatives and projects and programs of other countries relating to food security. Afghanistan, Angola, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Guatemala, India, Kenya, Liberia, among others, were all recipients of World Bank's financial grants. Local government units play a major role in taking action to protect food security. LGUs are in the best position to determine at the earliest possible time what is happening at local level in terms of food security. Our immediate response can help reduce the negative impact of a pandemic or any other emergency may have on food security. LGUs may, 1. Work with national government and private sector providers to secure essential food stocks when normal supplies of food may be disrupted. 2. Ensure that the population can obtain the food they need, especially the most vulnerable individuals like infants, young children, and women, elderly people, homeless people. 3. Educate the public about the necessity of increased hygiene, nutrition, and safe food and water storage. And 4. Work with national and regional governments to reduce malnutrition and other debilitating diseases so that people's bodies can make the best use of the foods they eat. Finally, no single sector alone can address problems in food security during a pandemic or any other public emergency. Public and private sectors must work together to alleviate the pandemic or public emergency's impact on food security. We need all the help we can get from agricultural producers, commercial and industry employers, farmers association, NGOs, food wholesalers and retailers, and community leaders, among others. It is only through a combined, conscious, and immediate action that we will be able to withstand all the grave consequences brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic, which include food insecurity and malnutrition. Thank you and good day.
A pleasant afternoon to everyone. First of all, allow me to thank DOST-FNRI for the opportunity to be a discussant on today's forum. Today, I will present to you ENNS's response to a call to action on addressing food insufficiency and micronutrient deficiencies in this time of pandemic. Fueling hunger in an already hungry world. Even before the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, the percentage of food insecure households in the Philippines was already high, as presented in the 2019 Expanded National Nutrition Survey. The coronavirus pandemic has added fuel to the fire of this growing hunger crisis. The Rapid Nutrition Assessment Survey, or ENNS, in 2020 revealed that 6 in every 10 of surveyed households in ENNS areas experience moderate or severe food insecurity. This is higher than the 2019 survey in ENNS areas wherein only 4 in every 10 households are food insecure. The COVID-19 pandemic has all the makings of a perfect storm for global and nationwide malnutrition. Due to the widespread unemployment resulting from COVID-19 mitigating measures, income effects are likely to be dramatic for majority of Filipinos. The poor will respond by purchasing the cheapest calories they can find to feed their families. The COVID-19 economic crisis could affect nutrition through disruptions in supply chains for nutrient-rich foods. Poor nutrition, in turn, weakens the immune system and can jeopardize the body's ability to fight COVID-19 infection. Adequate intakes of energy, macronutrients, and micronutrients are critical for immune functioning. Undernutrition can lead to immune dysfunction and increased susceptibility to infectious diseases. In turn, immune responses to infectious diseases enhance nutrient requirements, reduce appetite, and impede the absorption of nutrients, creating and perpetuating a vicious cycle. The Philippine Plan of Action for Nutrition, or PPAN, is the country's blueprint for an integrated program of nutrition interventions. Its formulation was spearheaded by the National Nutrition Council Secretariat, which serves as the coordinating body for the implementation of nutrition-related programs and projects and has responsibility for monitoring and evaluation. One of the PPAN's 2017 to 2022 strategic thrusts is the implementation of nutrition-specific and nutrition-sensitive programs. The nutrition-specific programs are those that were planned and designed to produce nutritional outcomes. Nutrition-sensitive programs, on the other hand, are developmental programs and projects that are tweaked to produce nutrition outcomes. The recent Food Consumption Survey, a component of the 2019 Expanded National Nutrition Survey by the DOST-FNRI, showed that the diet of Filipinos is still inadequate and poor in both quality and quantity. This supports the need to strengthen and scale up programs under the PPAN 2017 to 2022, which aims to reduce the inadequacy in energy and protein requirement and micronutrient deficiencies, particularly calcium, vitamin A, iron, and iodine deficiencies among all population groups. These are the following. First, the Dietary Supplementation Program. DSP is a balanced energy and protein supplementation among pregnant and lactating women. The survey revealed that protein inadequacy was most notable among pregnant and lactating women. This presents an urgent need for interventions to improve maternal nutritional status, such as the provision of balanced energy and protein dietary supplementation for pregnant and lactating women. The National Nutrition Council, together with the Interagency Task Force on Zero Hunger, launched its Tutok Kainan Supplementation Program as a response to the COVID-19 pandemic and the typhoons that hit our country last year. This program involves giving supplementary food to pregnant women for 90 days during their last trimester of pregnancy. The commodities being distributed are enhanced Nutriban, iron-fortified rice and viand, and the lipid-based nutrient supplements small quantity, or LNS SQ. At present, the program targets the Human Development and Poverty Reduction Cluster, or the HDPRC priority provinces and typhoon-stricken areas, targeting nutritionally at-risk pregnant women and children ages 6 to 23 months old. To sustain the momentum and gains that the ENNS hopes to achieve in our initial efforts under the Tutok Kainan Supplementation Program, the ENNS is proposing to scale up the implementation of the said program. Continued investment in nutrition-specific interventions and delivery strategies to reach poor segments of the population at greatest risk can make a substantial difference. Second, explore the possibilities of including fresh or cow's milk in different supplementation programs in the country. According to the survey, milk and milk products were the least consumed food group by the adult population. Only 1 in every 10 adults consumes milk. In addition, more than 90% of adolescents and adults have inadequacies of calcium. The consumption of milk as part of a healthy diet is continuously being promoted by the National Nutrition Council through the various multimedia campaigns of the Nutritional Guidelines for Filipinos, which include the key message: consume milk, milk products, and other calcium-rich foods such as small fish and shellfish every day for healthy bones and teeth. However, not everyone can afford milk and milk products. On the average, 1 cup of milk can cost about 25 to 40 pesos. To improve milk consumption, a milk feeding program is included as one of the components of the Republic Act No. 11037 or the Masustansyang Pagkain para sa Batang Pilipino Act. The national government agency shall coordinate with the Department of Agriculture, the National Dairy Authority, and the Philippine Carabao Center, as well as the Cooperative Development Authority for the incorporation of fresh milk and fresh milk-based products in the fortified meals and cycle menu, utilizing, as far as practicable, locally produced milk in order to enhance its nutritional content and at the same time help boost livelihood opportunities for local dairy farmers and local dairy industry. This program may aid in developing the habit of milk consumption in children, which they could carry on into their adulthood. Promotion of starchy roots and tubers as an alternative to rice. It was also mentioned in the survey that starchy roots and tubers were the least consumed food group at 7 to 13.1% of the majority of age groups. Roots and tubers are important and can add variety to our diet. In 2011, the Department of Agriculture promoted the production of roots and tubers and eating them as an alternative to rice. This was done to ease the pressure on rice due to the increasing demand throughout the country. In 2014, the National Nutrition Council, in coordination with the Department of Agriculture, also approved a resolution on the promotion of sweet potato or kamote. It was also notable that in 2019, there was a reduction in the roots and tubers production in the Philippines. Farmers are not motivated to grow this due to the low demand. And one of the recommendations raised during the National Food Consumption and Quantification Study was to create a demand for starchy roots and tubers by utilizing them in the supplementation programs of the government. Now on micronutrient supplementation. Solve vitamin A and mineral deficiencies through partnerships and collective actions. Survey also revealed that more than 90% of adolescents and adults have inadequacies of calcium, iron, and vitamin C. Meanwhile, iron was the least met micronutrient in the diet of all population groups. Delivering vitamins and minerals to large populations involves commitment, coordination, planning, and cooperation, all held together by strong and durable partnerships. Key partners in micronutrient interventions include national government, non-government organizations, donors, development partners, foundations, industry, community leaders, and the agriculture sector. Through the years, there is continuous progress in the iodine status of the general population. And it is because all of the LGUs, as well as national government agencies, who have done tremendous work in supporting the activities under the salt iodization program. However, we cannot ignore the fact that iodine deficiency still exists among children 6 to 12 years old, women of reproductive age, and older persons. So as not to waste the gains we had before the pandemic, the Technical Working Group on National Salt Iodization Program, or TWG-NSIP, together with the regional and local Mantay-Asin Task Force, and other stakeholders must work together for a more effective and efficient implementation and monitoring of the salt iodization program. On nutrition-sensitive interventions, agriculture and trade and industry to safeguard and promote access to nutritious, safe, and affordable diets. The recent food consumption survey also showed that the mean energy intakes of all age groups were inadequate based on recommendations. Now, in order to improve the diet quality and quantity, we must safeguard and promote access to nutritious, safe, and affordable diets, especially during this time of pandemic. First, we must keep agri-food systems functioning by keeping domestic and international food markets working. Second, we must facilitate food system innovations. Given that social distancing and mobility restrictions may be in place for many months, governments, development partners, and microfinance institutions should search for ways to stimulate innovative and safe food delivery systems, especially those that create jobs. During the pandemic, for example, innovations such as mobile palengke and community pantry service. Third, we must support local food production to increase access to nutrient-rich vegetables, fruits, and cakes, and improve diet quality. These programs are consistent with social distancing, can use surplus household labor, including women, and will increase consumption of nutrient-rich foods. This is also one of the components of the Tutok Kainan Supplementation Program of the National Nutrition Council. Health, to provide special attention to adolescent nutrition. Energy inadequacy was present among all population groups but was highest among adolescents 13 to 18 years old, with only 9% meeting the recommended energy intake. Special attention may be needed to promote intake of healthy diets, including fruits and vegetables, and discourage intake of empty-calorie foods and sugar-sweetened beverages. Implementation of evidence-informed interventions and policies for adolescent health and nutrition, which are embodied in the Adolescent Health and Development Program of the Department of Health, must be strengthened and revitalized. This program, which envisions a country with well-informed, empowered, responsible, and healthy adolescents who are leaders in the society, was identified as one of the nutrition-sensitive programs of the Philippine Plan of Action for Nutrition 2017 to 2022. In summary, with 10 years to go until 2030, the world is off track to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals targets for hunger and malnutrition. Projections for 2030, even without considering the potential impact of COVID-19, serve as a warning that the current level of effort is not enough to reach zero hunger 10 years from now. To end my response, let me remind everyone that healthy diet is a human right and the foundation of a just, resilient societies. Thank you very much and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you. And now for our last call to action, we have the Undersecretary Rodolfo V. And now for our last call to action, we have Undersecretary Rodolfo V. Becerra. Honorable Becerra.
Magandang hapon po sa lahat. Good afternoon. In behalf of Secretary William Dar, I wish to congratulate the DOST-FNRI for this very timely and significant survey. alam po natin now more than ever na ang goal of improving our level of food sufficiency and nutrition takes center stage as we face the problems of the pandemic. We need to highlight our efforts to attain food security with greater urgency. Ito pong survey na ito ay napakaganda at hindi ko po rin siguro mahihigitan yung mga sinabi ng ating previous speaker, si Dr. Dayang Hirang, at hindi ko na po pwedeng dagdagan pa yon. Gusto ko lamang pong i-highlight yung pangangailangan at importansya nung kanyang mga nasabi tungkol po sa food accessibility, food affordability, and food safety and nutrition. Ito pong tatlong mga bagay na ito ay kasama po sa mga top priorities natin pinagtutuunan namin ng pansin dito po sa kagawaran ng agrikultura. At kami po ay binigyan ni Secretary Dar ng mga matitindi pong mga utos at estratehiya para po natin ang masiguro na ang ating mga producers at ang ating mga consumers ay may sapat na kakayahan para po sa sapat na pagkain at nutrisyon sa bawat pamilya. At alam po natin na kailangan po ay sama-samang effort nating lahat. Sa amin pong mga programa dito sa kagawaran, kailangan po natin na tulungan ng husto ang ating mga magsasaka at mangingisda. Bakit po? Kasi sila po ang mga pinakamahihirap na grupo dito sa ating bansa. Sa lahat po ng statistika, sila po ang mga may pinakamataas na poverty ratios, 30%. Ang national average po natin ng poverty is around 20-24%. Ang ating mga farmers and fishers po, 30% or more. Kaya po, tulungan po ito, tinutulungan at gusto naming maayos din yung kalagayan ng ating mga magsasaka at mangingisda sa pamamagitan po ng estratehiyang dapat sila po ay consolidated ang kanilang production systems at ika-cluster po natin sila para yung ayuda ay mas mabilis na dumating sa kanila. Pagdating sa technology, pagdating sa mga processing, pagdating sa marketing, at pagdating sa more basic things like how to produce better their crops and their livestock. Yun po ay mga bagay na kailangan din nating mai-highlight para po ang dating po ng mga masustansyang pagkain sa ating hapagkainan ay tayo na mismo dito sa Pilipinas ang bigay ng mura at masustansyang pagkain sa bawat pamilyang Pilipino. Yun po ang direksyon natin dito sa DA at sana po ay ang ating mga participants dito ay tumulong po na mapauso natin yung tinatawag nating clustering and consolidation strategy among our farmers kasi po kailangan din natin silang matulungan para ma-adapt yung better ways of doing things po sa agriculture production. And as we try to empower our farmers, we know that we are going to provide, the sector will be able to provide better quality food products for our consumers. At yun po naman talaga ang intensyon, yun din naman talaga ang misyon ng agriculture sector para po mula sa farm production, mula po sa bukid, mula po sa ating mga kanayunan ay ma-process natin ng maayos ang ating mga produktong pagkain, post-harvest, ma-package po at maibigay ng fresh at magandang kalidad ang mga pagkain galing sa ating kanayunan papunta po sa ating mga hapagkainan. Kaya po Kami po ay humihingi po ng inyong suporta sa mga programa pong gustong maipalaganap ng kagawaran ng agrikultura, kasi po alam natin na marami po dito yung bago sa aming pananaw, kasi in the past ang focus is production. Ngayon po ang focus ng kagawaran is the whole food value chain, mula po sa pre-production, ibig sabihin pagprepara ng mga seeds, etc., na itatanim, mga inahin na magbibigay ng itlog, etc., hanggang sa maging produkto po yung ating mga ginagawa ng ating mga magsasaka, at ma-process, ma-package, at ma-market po sa ating mga palengke hanggang sa ating hapagkainan. Yun po ay gusto nating ma-highlight, na ito pong effort natin is towards making more available ang masustansyang pagkain para sa lahat ng pamilyang Pilipino. Doon po sana, yun lang po sana ang aking mensahe, at maraming salamat po. Ang amin pong pakiusap ay suporta po mula sa ating mga mamamayan, at makikipagtulungan po kami ng husto sa bawat kanayunan natin, mga barangay natin, at mga grupo ng mga magsasaka para po mapalago at magkaroon po ng masaganang ani at mataas na kita at ang ating mga magsasaka, at masustansyang pagkain po para sa ating mga mamimili. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much po to our discussants for your moving speeches for our call to action. So indeed, COVID-19 has affected all of us greatly, and there is actually a need to resume health and nutrition services for all our countrymen, especially the children, to ensure that an entire generation will not suffer the disastrous and long-term consequences of malnutrition due to prolonged hunger and undernutrition.
Yes, I agree with that, Miss Pia. So dun sa tatlong distinguished discussants natin, Governor Susan Yap, Dr. Dayang Hirang, and Yusek Rodolfo Becerra, may common denominator dun sa kanilang discussion. At yun ay yung parang partnership, collaboration, at parang yung na-retain sa akin ay yung quote na "No man is an island." So parang kailangan nating makipag-partner sa iba pang agencies para mas matugunan natin yung mga problema sa food insecurity, maging micronutrient deficiency. Food insecurity. Thank you so much po sa ating mga discussants.
Thank you. And before we move on to the open forum part of our programs, please allow me to present our certificate of appreciation to our distinguished discussants, Honorable Susan A. Yap, Executive Vice President of the League of Provinces of the Philippines and Governor of Tarlac, Dr. Azucena Dayang Hirang, Executive Director of the National Nutrition Council of the Department of Health, Honorable William D. Dar, Secretary of the Department of Agriculture, and Honorable Rodolfo Becerra, Undersecretary for Policy and Planning, Department of Agriculture, for sharing their invaluable time and insights as a discussant during the online dissemination forum on food consumption, vitamin A and iodine status, and iodine content of household salts, given this 27th day of May 2021 at the Food and Nutrition Research Institute, signed by our director, Dr. Imelda Angeles Agdepa. So before we proceed to our open forum, we will just have a short break, 5-minute break. Thank you.
The FNRI Service Laboratory is an ISO IEC 17025 accredited laboratory which is composed of 3 laboratories. It is the focal agency of the Department of Science and Technology for Nutrition Labeling and is recognized by the Philippine FDA for nutrition labeling and by BFAR for marine food products analysis. It is the only laboratory in the Philippines that is capable to analyze serum vitamin A and urinary iodine excretion. Initially mandated to conduct researches on biological parameters and support the laboratory needs of various in-house food research and development projects, FNRI-SL has continuously expanded and has offered its services also to the public. The chemical laboratory is equipped with instruments that allow proximate determination and physical chemical analysis of foods. Also, our laboratory is equipped with state-of-the-art modern instruments such as high-performance liquid chromatography, gas chromatography, atomic absorption spectrophotometer, graphite furnace-equipped AAS, automatic analyzer, WYD iodine checker, and the UV-Vis spectrophotometer is currently used for developing methods and water quality assessment. In the biochemical laboratory, other modern instrumentation are being used in order to support the National Nutrition Survey, medical research institutions, LGUs, non-government and international organizations. Having continuously participated and showed satisfactory results in the quality assurance programs of the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Biochem Lab offers now a wide range of tests. Meanwhile, the Microbiological Lab is a food laboratory offering range of tests covering spoilage, indicator and pathogenic microorganisms in food and water samples. The Microlab offers the following: Also, the Microlab conducts isolation and identification of pathogenic microorganisms in food that are of significance to public health. Recently, the laboratory has also started performing molecular pathogen detection in food and bacterial cultures. Using the technology of real-time polymerase chain reaction, detection of Salmonella and Vibrio has become more rapid and accurate. As we are committed to deliver high-quality and timely services, the laboratory is maintained by well-trained, experienced, and PRC-registered chemists and chemical technicians, medical technologists, and registered microbiologists on analysis of different samples. Aside from our commitment to maintain quality data generation, FNRI-SL also holds trainings and continuous consultation to customers and stakeholders. In the future, the laboratory aims to expand its services by offering specialized tests to the public. In order to do this, we commit to continuously develop methods and train our laboratory staff for excellence and quality service.
Okay, good afternoon again. We are now opening the virtual floor for your comments and questions. Speakers and discussants, kindly stand by.
And also, may we ask our discussant and key speakers to open their cameras during the open forum.
So, si Miss Glenda, si Ma'am RD, maybe also ask Ma'am Chari, Ma'am Beth, and Doc A. Maybe also ask Dr. Pacificador.
And also Yusek Visera to open their video. So Dr. Dayang Girang and Governor Susan Yap was not able to be part of this open forum due to an equally important event. Okay. So my first question from our participants, I will first read for Yusek Visera. The ASIN law had adverse effect on the livelihood of the salt farmers in the country. They say that around 80% of the salt in the market is imported. What actions po being done by the department to address this? Thank you.
Ano po, hindi ko po nakita ito personally yung asin issue, pero kailangan po talaga natin ma-improve din yung production systems natin para sa mga producers ng asin. Di ba? About salt pa ito. And
Yes po.
you know, alam niyo po, ako'y galing sa Western Pangasinan. Ako po ay taga doon sa Bulinaw, Pangasinan. Isa po sa mga dating produkto namin doon ay asin. Nakakita na rin po ako ng mga nagpo-produce ng asin na mga sa aming mga barangay doon. At mahirap po talaga yung kanilang sistema. I believe that if there is anything we can do, hindi lang po yung sa pagtulong sa kanila, kundi more on improving their technology. Kailangan po natin talagang maparating yung teknolohiyang yon. Pero ang mas importante po ay yun pong gusto rin namin mangyari dito sa Kagawaran ng Agrikultura, mas organisadong pagtulong po sa ating mga magsasaka at mangingisda. At dito po sa particular case na ito, pagtulong na rin po siguro, isasama na rin namin ang mga mag-aasin as part of agriculture sector. Isa po yan sa mga advocacies actually ng kasamahan kong undersecretary sa BFAR. At siya po ay nag-advocate na isama natin ang asin, production of asin, kasi marami po tayong mga kababayan, lalo na sa mga rural seashores natin, na matutulungan po natin tungkol dito. So, in short, hindi ko po maipapaliwanag ng husto yung batas mismo dahil hindi ko pa nabasa ito. Pero ang direction po ng kagawaran ay tulungan yung ating local producers para po mabawas-bawasan yung dependence natin sa imports ng asin.
Thank you very much po, Yusek. Another question po for Ms. Glenda. What could be the possible reasons for the improvement in vitamin A deficiency prevalence in the indicated survey years?
One of the possible reasons in the improvement of VAD is the availability of fortified products in the market, because before there only a few were fortified, but nowadays there are a lot of fortified products in the market available for consumption of the households. And also it could be one of the reasons is the improved quality of the food being consumed by children through the years po, and also the intake of different supplements. But for this presentation, we did not consider the supplements for yung kanyang nagagawa para for vitamin A status. So supplements were not included in the analysis for now.
Okay, another question is for Ma'am RD. The question is, good afternoon. Can you suggest an innovative way, like a homemade testing kit for monitoring purposes in checking whether salt sold in rural as well as in urban areas are iodized?
Actually, we have the RTK that is being used for testing of levels of iodine in salt, aside from the WYD checker. However, the RTK is only used to determine the presence and absence of salt. Also, if the iodine content of salt is very low, mahirap din makita yung concentration level. So I think yung tanong if there is an innovative test kit that can be used in the household, this can also compromise the safety because as I have said a while ago, yung procedure ng salt testing ng iodine, it involves acid that may compromise the safety of the user. So as of now, ang pwedeng available is the RTK, but that is only for the presence and absence of iodine. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ma'am RD.
So there's also a comment here from Mr. Curl Gibson Santos. He says that I think communication, especially emphasizing in the community level the importance of using iodized salt. And another question is, from Mr. Michael Enerlan. How can FNRI help us in the sustainability of nutrition commodities, particularly those that can arrest the micronutrient deficiency? So, who would like to answer the question?
Yes, Pia, good afternoon. So,
yes po, Doc, go ahead.
Yes, in terms of micronutrient deficiencies, we at FNRI actually addresses this in terms of product development. So we have these different products addressing micronutrient deficiencies, like the multi-nutrient premix or MNERC, no? So multi-micronutrient growth mix. These are actually given to as complementary foods as well as to older children aged 3 years to 6 years old. And we have also this kind of growth mix that's this MNERC is actually given to pregnant women. And we also have products for women of reproductive age. So these are the things that FNRI have in order to actually prevent or arrest the increasing trend of micronutrient deficiencies. Also on the inadequacy of vitamin and mineral intake in terms of food intake. Over to you, Pia.
Thank you, Doc A. So another question that we got is, how do we promote consumption of iodized salt without over-consuming that will result to NCDs like hypertension? Ma'am Glens, can you please answer this?
based on the data, those with problem of iodine deficiency was the pregnant, lactating, and the elderly. So the messages should be for these population groups to use iodized salt to improve their iodine status. So now on the question ng para ma-prevent yung hypertension, overuse of iodized salt, we can say na to lessen, to limit the use of the consumption of processed foods so that ang kanilang source of iodine would be the regular food intake, from the food intake and the iodized salt itself. So wala silang processed food wherein most of the processed foods ay mataas po yung salt content. Okay.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Glenda.
Okay, we have another question from Michael Enerlan. How can FNRI help us in the sustainability of nutrition commodities, particularly those that can arrest the micronutrient deficiency? It was already asked and answered by Dr. Agdepa. Okay. Actually, we have other questions, but it was already answered by our staff from NAMD. So we're going to ask other questions from the chat box. Like, what is the stand of the DOST FNRI with or NNC in addressing malnutrition? How will the DOST FNRI enforces certain policies like IYCF, food supplementation and fortification, and to use iodized salt? Anyone who want to answer the question from our participant? So I'll repeat, what is the stand of DOST FNRI in addressing
paki-repeat yung question. Hindi ko nakikita kasi.
Okay po. The question po is, what is the stand of DOST FNRI or NNC in addressing malnutrition? How will the DOST FNRI and the NNC enforces certain policies like IYCF, food supplementation and fortification, and to use iodized salt?
So on the part of FNRI, is Dr. Dan Hirang still there? So on the part of FNRI, as we have said, we are a research and technology generator. So that means to say all our data must actually be fed to all implementing agencies like the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Health, DSWD, and DepEd. So how can FNRI help? Actually, we frequently disseminate our information. We will frequently disseminate our research results. And we also do recommend policy options. So since we are also members of the different technical working groups at the national level, we actually advocated to use our data in crafting programs and projects addressing the different malnutrition problems in the country. So like NNC, we are very happy to have Dr. Dayan Hirang, who always actually listens to our data. So if we fed the data to Dr. Dayan Hirang, she always have that kind of tendency to act on it immediately. Like for example, our data on lactating women, now she's actually crafting actions wherein she has to actually give micronutrient supplementations to our lactating women. So these are the things that we need to say, because the data of the National Nutrition Survey speaks 1,000 folds, or speaks 1,000 words. And therefore, it must be really used for planning as well as crafting policies. So if Dr. Diane Hirang is still here, I think she can answer more of this because she has a lot of programs in ENNS addressing the micronutrient supplementation, micronutrient deficiencies. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc A. Unfortunately po, Dr. Dayang Hirang, wala na po dito sa ating open forum. Okay. May another question po. Alright. Any nutrition activities or programs we can adopt po to help our kababayans, especially this time of pandemic? So we are doing now the feeding programs and lectures already. So ang question po niya ay any nutrition activities.
So
yes,
FNRI can offer a lot of nutrition activities for you because we have modeled all the different programs and projects and products here at FNRI based on problems of the nutritional problems of the country. So it means to say it's problem specific. No? So like for example, with regards to the problem of anemia, so we have this iron fortified rice. So you can be adapters, or you better tell your LGUs to be the adapters of the production of iron fortified rice, or an adapter of what we call the malnutrition reduction program of FNRI. So in this case, we at FNRI will actually link you to our setup program in order for you to avail a soft loan without interest for the adapter to install facilities for the malnutrition reduction program. So that means to say they can actually avail of this in terms of sending us only a letter of intent. What are the different programs or services that they can actually avail from us? You can search this in our website, all the list of services and activities, including actually nutrition education activities of FNRI. So you can actually, Steph, if
yes,
you can type in the chat box the email address as where they can send their letter of intent, and also our website where they can find the different services and programs of FNRI DOST. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc Aglepa. Yes po, we will type po the email address. Okay, I think another question for Ma'am RD. Okay, good afternoon. Since WYD is now recommended for monitoring of IS in the local level, is there a possibility for the price of WYD to be a little bit lower since it now costs 50,000? Okay.
Actually, we do not have any control on the market value of WYD, but what can the DOST support those who are using this test kit is that you can contact different DOST regional laboratories who can assist you in the selling of the different standards. Since if you buy the standards from the supplier, medyo mas pricey, DOST regional laboratories can offer the kits, other agents at a lower prices. So that's the support that DOST can give. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Another question here from the Q&A chat box is, what practical recommendations would you suggest to improve the use of iodized salt among Filipino households? Ms. Glenda?
I think ang una nating sasagutin ay adequately iodized salt ba? Adequately iodized ba yung salt available in the market? So, ang salt kasi is one of the commonly used food item in the household. So kahit hindi mo sabihin na bumili ka ng salt, ay bibili talaga ang household. But the availability and the accessibility for having adequately iodized salt, or those with more than or equal to 15 ppm as per suggestion or as per recommendation of the World Health Organization, should be in place first before tayo magkaroon ng recommendation to use the iodized salt. Kasi most of the households were buying salt from the palengke or talipapa in kilo or takal. So medyo hindi rin natin alam if those salt being purchased by the households is adequately iodized. So yun po. And also, no, for the iodine intake, hindi lamang iodized salt yung ating source. So we also have seafoods and other food products na high in iodine. So aside from the iodized salt, dapat meron din po tayong intake of food na mataas po sa iodine, such as seafoods.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Glenda. So we have a question here from YouTube from Mr. Hector Maglalang. Did FNRI check the difference in iodine content of rock salt and fine salt, especially non-detected iodine content? There is a common perception that only fine salt is iodized salt. So chinek daw po ba ng FNRI yung difference in iodine content of rock salt and fine salt? Ma'am RD?
Yes, all types of salts were tested, mapa-fine or rock salt man siya, lahat ng household salt were tested. But again, that is a perception only, na kung fine salt siya ay iodized salt na, and kung rock salt siya ay hindi siya iodized. May mga rock salt pa rin na mataas ang iodine content because these rock salts are also iodized at the manufacturer's level. Pero for the data, we need to look at if there is an available data for comparing the level of fine salt and rock salt. But we did analyze all the type of salt for the iodine content.
In addition po, no, so we have data po on the rock and fine salt. So on the result of iodine content, pwede natin siyang i-combine dun sa household data na merong, kung ang ginamit pa nila ay rock salt or fine salt. So for now, wala pa po tayong data for that, pero magagawan po ito ng analysis later.
Okay, thank you very much, Ma'am RD and Ms. Glenda. So another question from NNC Region 6. There have been efforts to harmonize statistics from FNRI, DA, NNC, and PSA. Are there plans to sustain this? Ma'am Chari or Doc A?
What do they mean if they say harmonize? Because the data being collected by FNRI are unique data on health and nutritional status. We do reconcile with PSA in terms of the different questions to be collected, or variables to be collected during their NDHS as well as in our National Nutrition Survey. And we have done that way back in 2011. So the harmonization of the different questionnaires were already done. However, I really don't know what do they mean if they say that there is a harmonization of data. Maybe we can ask more elaboration on this. Hello.
Thank you so much po, Dr. Agdepa, for that answer. Okay. Another question po. Kanina po kasi nabanggit ata yung MNERC. So thus MNERC available in the market. What is the difference between MNP, which are using in our LGUs? That's from Reni de la Rosa. MNERC.
Question, sorry.
The question po, Doc Agdepa, is, does MNERC available in the market? So what is the difference between MNP, which are using in our LGUs?
Yeah, the MNERC is actually available among our adopters of the technology. So that means to say that these are given to the social safety net programs of the government like DSWD and DSWD and the NNC. They are actually the consumers or customers of the MNERC. Now, how does it differ with the MNP? No?
Yes po,
So,
yes po, Doc.
our MNERC have about 9 micronutrients. I think the MNP has 15. So the 9 micronutrients is actually patterned on the different nutritional deficiencies or inadequacies of food intake in the Filipino population. So we just put 9 instead of 15. It's just because these are the only, we think, is the more urgent need to address in terms of micronutrient deficiencies. However, we are running some of our R&D for the 15 micronutrients, but we are still analyzing which of these micronutrients will be included based on this National Nutrition Survey data on food intake. Thank you.
Thank you po, Dr. Agdepa. Okay. Siguro our last...
sorry, Steph. I think
Yes,
the
po.
MNP is actually imported coming from India, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you.
Thank you po. Siguro this will be our last question. It's from YouTube from Miss Jacqueline Gortiza. What could be the strategies of other LGUs who made nutrition as part priority agenda during this time of pandemic, as we see the future for an increased rate of hunger and food insecurity?
What would be the response of the LGU? Is that the question?
What could be the strategies po, Doc, of other LGUs? I think who made nutrition as part priority agenda during this time of pandemic. So as we see the future for an increased rate of hunger and food insecurity.
Yeah, that's actually a very it's more on the action-oriented agencies, and these are the implementing agencies like the LGUs, as you said. So for us, what we recommend is really to be alerted on the different problems so that all LGU plans and programs must be patterned on data. And therefore, if it is patterned on data, it is more cost-effective and cost-efficient. So these are the things that we need to really consider in terms of using the data that we have disseminated just today. Thank you so much.
Thank you po.
Okay, thank you very much to everyone. So in the interest of time, time check, it's 4 p.m. and there are still a lot of questions and we will still try to address it through your emails. Okay, so we are now nearing the end of our program. So I said the comments and questions will be addressed using your email. May we request Ms. Charmaine A. Duante to wrap up this technical session by synthesizing the presentations. Ms. Duante is a supervising science research specialist and is currently the officer in charge of the Nutritional Assessment and Monitoring Division. Over to you, Ma'am Shari.
Okay, magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. And napaka-fruitful po ang ating mga discussions. But as Pia said, ay eto na po, yung pinakabuod ng ating activity for today. So we've come to the end of this enriching forum. It has been a full day loaded with information, some as what we have expected, others surprising, some good news, while others kept us wondering what we could do more. So in the morning session, Dr. Agdepa welcomed us and gave an overview of the forum, why we need to disseminate, and a glimpse of what we can expect in the presentations. Secretary de la Peña then gave his inspirational message, highlighting the importance of the National Nutrition Survey data generated by DOST-FNRI, even amidst the pandemic. He expressed his support in the goal of uplifting the socio-economic well-being of Filipino people to ensure sustainable development for the future. Yusek Idilion of NEDA recognized the dedication of the DOST-FNRI in collecting data on food, nutrition, and health that are used in planning policies and programs and gauging our progress in our national and global commitments. She challenged us, tayo, FNRI, to ensure comparability of data to track the changes over the years and to collect more sensitive nutrition and health indicators that are relevant to the call of the time. And then the presentations na, Ms. Dasco presented the overview and methodology of the ENNS and highlighted the updates on the analysis and interpretation of the pooled data of the 2018 and 2019 ENNS that will be used in the time trends of selected indicators. Dr. Guyena and Ms. Josie Desnacido then presented the household and individual food consumption survey results respectively. Dr. Guyena reported that the dietary pattern of Filipino households remained a combination of rice, fish, and vegetables. However, changes in household food consumption were observed in the past years. There was an increase in the meal intake for eggs, milk and milk products, and miscellaneous food items like the beverages, condiments, and others. But a decrease in the meat intake was recorded for rice, bread, and cereal products, fish, meat, and poultry, and fruits and vegetables. The challenge remains as we are still far behind in our SDG target because the majority of the Filipino households did not achieve the 100% energy adequacy. At the individual level, Ms. Desnacido or Josie presented that Filipinos are not only known to be food lovers, but more especially rice lovers, and this is just not a pure observation as it also shows in the recent data presented. As expected, the survey revealed that almost all of the population groups of Filipinos consumes rice, bread, and other cereals and products. With this, rice remained the top food source of energy, iron, and calcium of all age groups, except young children whose primary food sources were milk and milk products. However, the mean energy intake for all age groups was still inadequate based on recommendations. It is common knowledge that both pregnant and lactating women have an increased need for protein to meet the nutritional demands of their bodies and to support the growth and development of their babies. However, it is in this population group where the protein inadequacy was most notable, with only 17.2% of the pregnant women and 19% of the lactating mothers meeting the recommended intake. More than 90% of the adolescents and adults have inadequacies in calcium, iron, and vitamin C, to which the inadequacies in calcium and iron could be partly attributed to the findings of the survey that milk and milk products were the least consumed by food group, especially by the adult population. Meanwhile, for the rest of the age groups, starchy roots and tubers were the least consumed food group. In terms of micronutrients, iron was the least met micronutrient in the diet across all population groups. And as we all know, iron is a very important micronutrient for the proper function of hemoglobin, which is transporting oxygen in the blood. So iron inadequacy can lead to a range of serious health problems, including iron deficiency anemia. In the afternoon session, Yusek Guevara welcomed the participants and guests in the forum. She mentioned the uses of survey results and what programs and policies have been crafted by the government in cooperation with other organizations and other sectors even before the pandemic. She also emphasized that the DOST will continue to conduct and support research and development studies that would address the prevailing problems even in challenging times. After the welcome message of Yusek Guevara, Ms. Dumag presented the protocol of collecting blood samples for vitamin A and urine samples for iodine from the field, then analysis at the laboratory and processing of data for serum retinol and urinary iodine concentration, respectively. Ms. Glenda Asanya then presented the status of vitamin A in selected population groups. We learned that vitamin A deficiency among children 6 months to 5 years old is at 15.5%, and was of moderate public health significance. Across all age groups mentioned, it was observed that the prevalence of vitamin A deficiency was more among households in the poorest quintile. So interventions on supplementation, fortification, dietary diversification, particularly in the first 1,000 days, should be intensified. For iodine status, despite current efforts to address iodine deficiencies in the Philippines, especially through the enactment of the ASIN law, pockets of iodine deficiency still exist among selected population groups. School-age children and non-pregnant, non-lactating women have generally adequate iodine intake. The elderly has also an adequate iodine intake. However, more than 20% of the population has a urinary iodine level of less than 50 micrograms per liter. Worrisome is the iodine deficiency among pregnant and lactating mothers with median UIC considered insufficient, and 2 in every 10 have urinary iodine level of less than 50 micrograms per liter. Targeting these population groups particularly is a crucial step to eliminating iodine deficiency in the country. Also, addressing the iodine deficiency in the country does not stop with just the passing of the ASIN law, but rather the continuous reinforcement and monitoring of its implementation. As the survey results showed, only 1 in every 3 households have adequately iodized salt, and far from our target of more than 90% of households using adequately iodized salt. Response of our guests in the call to action gave us ideas on what are being done and what will be our next steps to address food insufficiency and micronutrient deficiency. Governor Yap, representing the local government units, emphasized putting premium on food security and nutrition. She said that LGUs play a major role in taking action to protect food security. LGUs are in the best position to determine at the earliest possible time what is happening at the local level in terms of food security. They can work with the national government and other sectors to ensure that the population will have the food they need, especially the most vulnerable, educate the people of increased hygiene, safe food and water, work with national and regional government to reduce malnutrition. Lastly, she emphasized that no single sector can solve our problem on malnutrition, thus public and private sectors must work together, from producers, retailers, and even consumers. Dr. Diane Hirang of the National Nutrition Council acknowledged the impacts of COVID-19 pandemic on food security and nutritional status. Her call to action focused on strengthening and scaling up programs under the PPAN 2017 to 2022, such as dietary supplementation programs, by intensifying supplementation of pregnant and lactating women, promoting and including locally produced fresh cow's milk, micronutrient supplementation, safeguard and promote access to nutritious, safe, and affordable diets, and special attention to adolescents. USEC Becerra focused his response on accessibility, availability, affordability to have adequate food and nutrition. He emphasized the need to empower our farmers and fisher folks, as they have the highest poverty incidence among other sectors. He mentioned that they have several programs to help the agriculture sector, particularly on consolidated production systems and clustering the farmers and fisher folks that would efficiently assist them from production to marketing. This would enable us to have better quality and nutritious foods reaching consumers. USEC Becerra said that they have been looking at agriculture from a whole food value chain approach and not only focus on production like before. He encouraged everyone to support their efforts to uplift our farmers and fisher folks so that we will have available, affordable, accessible, and nutritious foods for all. Moreover, we have also tried to answer the best way we can in the open forum in the morning and afternoon sessions. So this sums up the activities that we had, and we hope that we have given you takeaways to ponder upon on the status of our food and nutrition. Thank you and good day to everyone.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Chari, for summarizing the results and findings presented both in the morning and afternoon session. So hindi po kami makakapagbigay ng mga resulta na pakita po namin kaninang umaga at ngayong hapon kung hindi dahil sa aming mga researchers na actually isang taon po silang nag-collect all over the Philippines. So kaya po sa aming mga ENNS researchers, maraming salamat po. Okay, so before we end, may we now hear the closing message of FNRI Deputy Director, Dr. Anthony P. Calibo. Dr. Anthony Calibo.
Good afternoon to everyone. The Honorable Secretary Fortunato de la Peña, our Undersecretary for Research and Development, Dr. Rowena Cristina Guevara, our beloved DOST FNRI Director, Dr. Imelda Angeles Agdepa, to our distinguished keynote speakers, the USEC for Planning Policy at the National Economic and Development Authority, this morning, USEC Dr. Rosemary Edilion, to our esteemed discussants, the Honorable Secretary William Dar of the Department of Agriculture, represented by the Undersecretary for Policy Planning of the DA, USEC Rodolfo Becerra, and Director Agnes Catherine Miranda, Assistant Secretary, Designate for Planning and Project Development. From the National Nutrition Council of the Department of Health, the Executive Director, Dr. Azucena Dayanghirang, and to all our colleagues, advocates of health and nutrition, ladies, gentlemen, a pleasant afternoon to all. We are honored and delighted to have delivered the results of the Food Consumption Survey and planning and remaining parameters for the Biochemical Survey in the 2019 Expanded National Nutrition Survey. Furthermore, we have clarified the need to pool our 2018 and 2019 expanded National Nutrition Survey data sets for tracking trends of nutrition and health indicators. The third year of the ENNS in 2020 unfortunately was discontinued because of the COVID-19 pandemic. The pooled estimates for 2018 and 2019 are comparable with the 2013 and 2015 estimates of the selected indicators. With the pooled data of the dietary and biochemical survey results just presented, and soon for the other indicators, we will now be able to have a complete picture of the whole nutrition and health situation of our country using the ENNS. In addition, intervention should also focus to decrease the prevalence of micronutrient deficiencies. Up to this day, the COVID-19 pandemic delays the progress of our nutrition and health sectors to reach out and deliver nutrition services and healthcare to our fellow Filipinos. However, this challenge should not affect our passion and dedication to prevent the worsening of the health and nutrition situation in the country. Although the data presented was before the COVID-19 pandemic, in hindsight, we are not meeting the recommendations for energy and nutrient intakes, and the nutritional status of Filipinos still exhibited as poor. We are hoping that all of you will maximize the use of the data we presented as your groundwork to enhance interventions and develop innovations to address the barrier between poor health and nutritional status to quality health and overall well-being. Furthermore, we must regain the strength and efforts to promote better nutrition while addressing the health implications of the COVID-19 pandemic. The DOST-FNRI is committed to delivering reliable and science-based data and technologies, and we trust that through this platform, we will assist in the development of more responsive programs and projects that cater to our target populations, as well as achieve our Philippine Plan of Action for Nutrition and 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. We must join hands to overcome the health and nutrition problems in the country. The national government, as well as the local government, social enterprises, and the community. We must align our goals to prevent all forms of malnutrition and achieve zero hunger to improve the health conditions of our fellow Filipinos, and hope to achieve it all together. We are fortunate and thankful to have you as our partner, and we appreciate your unceasing support to our goals. Before I end, allow me to use this chance to invite all of you to check the DOST-FNRI's website, where you can find the results of the interventions programs, services offered, and technologies developed that are available for adoption and commercialization to address the country's prevailing health and nutrition problem. You can also check our Facebook page, the DOST-FNRI, to be updated with our newest programs, upcoming FNRI seminar series in July of this year, and services. Let us continue to provide evidence-based interventions to our fellow Filipinos. Allow me to congratulate everyone, especially po the Nutritional Assessment and Monitoring Division, headed by its OIC, Ms. Shari Duante, the team of Ms. Dasco, Dr. Goyena, and the speakers who made this forum very informative and educational to everyone. And also, we'd like to thank the continued guidance of our director, Dr. Agdepa, who continuously guides us and provides us with the leadership necessary to pursue this online dissemination forum. Allow me to thank everyone who devoted their time listening and understanding, and of course, placing relevant questions that made our open forum very interesting and dynamic as well. Again po, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Mabuhay po tayong lahat at manatili po tayong maging ligtas mula sa panganib po ng COVID-19. Mabuhay at mag-ingat po tayo. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you so much, Dr. Calibo, for that closing remarks. So that ends our one-day webinar, and we hope to be with you all again in our next FNRI activities. So good afternoon, everyone, and stay safe. Picture. May we request po our resource speakers, discussants, to open their camera for a photo opportunity.
Dr. Calibo and Doc A, please join us. Dr. Pacificador. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Smile. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you po.
Thank you, Steph and Pia.
Thank you so much
Thank
po.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you to all. Thank you, Namdi.
Thank you, ma'am.
Salamat po sa inyo. Salamat sa iyo. Ganun yun eh, no? At least tapos na.
Opo.
Okay, thank you. Take a rest, no? And then prepare for another day tomorrow. So thank you for all the presentations and the efforts. Okay?
Thank you rin po sa mga...
Thank you, Dr. Calibo and the rest.
Walang anuman po.
Okay.
Congrats po.
So you take a good night's sleep, no? So that tomorrow we will be fresh again. Bye-bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye-bye.